Hello and welcome to another video on Giles' Life of Cars, and this time it's going to be looking at more brochures. I really enjoy making these videos, so I thought I'll carry on and do them as and when I can and when I think I've got some good ideas. So hopefully, and I know for those that may have watched them before, hopefully you'll enjoy this one again. If anyone new is watching, hi there again, thank you for joining and thank you for supporting my channel and giving my videos some support, so it's all greatly appreciated. And yeah, I always try to reply on comments and left on videos when I can, as soon as possible, so the support doesn't go unnoticed. So excuse me, but in this video we're going to be looking at some more Focus brochures, but not just on the Mk1. I'm going to look on all the generations. One example of a brochure from each generation, so from the Mk1 through to the last one, the Mk4. So yeah, let's go. Right, so here are the examples I've selected. I've got loads on the Mk1 and I've covered that a lot, so but we'll still have a look at this. Pretty sure this might be one I've shown you before, but this is one I select, so I thought I might as well just have that one. But see, I've got one example from each generation. That the Mk2, that's a facelift one. I've only got one brochure for the Mk2. But I've only got one brochure for the Mk2, 3 and 4. So same with the Mk3. I've shown you this one before. Say this is the only one I've got. But well, to say, I'll quickly show it you again, just as we're doing a comparison essentially between all generations. And yeah, and just the last one, the Mk4. So this is the only one I could find when I purchased it on eBay. I couldn't find any others. There probably were there, but this was like the first one that came up, so I just bought this and just added it to my collection. So yeah, that's just the examples I'm going to look at. I know they're all the cars featured on the cover are blue, so that wasn't intended, it was just accidental. So yeah, it's just how it worked out. So let's go. So we'll start with the Mk1. It'll only be probably just a quick look through this one as I've shown it you before, but yeah, as I say, they all have their own different styles at how they present in each generation. So but they all, I think a lot of them do generally start with just some nice pictures of each generation, and just like with a quick description in the below, like that, as you can see. Yeah, say that's an ST117 Magnum Grey. Yeah, I'd just say I've seen this before. I know it is. Say, well, I've done this in great detail, but it's worth just going through again. Obviously, all body styles. This one's from 2002. I know one I showed you was from 2004. I can't remember if I showed you this 2002 one or not, but it's very similar, put it that way. I know that obviously they change seat patterns in different years, so I say even I sometimes forget like which seat patterns go where in different years. It's a complicated thing, but yeah, let's say it goes through the trim levels, and they all follow a similar kind of layout, and they all mention the trim levels, availability and everything, as I said, from the Mk1 and Mk3 brochures I've shown you in my previous videos. And then we'll get on to the LX. And say, just, I can't remember if I pointed this out. I know quite a few LX models have electric, like, adjustable mirrors, whereas mine doesn't. Mine's manual, weirdly, on a 2005 plate. So yeah, that's just something a bit weird that they changed later again to remove electric powered mirrors, if I can get my words out right. And just, whereas earlier LXs, well, facelift LXs had like power mirrors. So missed a page. And then just obviously it goes on to the gear. I say there was a facelift gear alloys before they were changed for the later facelift gear alloys. So if you've watched my other brochure videos and I've done the 04 brochure, you'll know what I mean. And so you can see for the time that this was a nicely spec'd car and all that, and the Mk1 obviously with all the, as you can see there, the trim steer wheel gear knob, the body colour, door handles and body side mouldings, etc. And on to the Z-Tech, like the mini sporty model. And then the ST170, the sporty model that's below the RS. So very nice. And again, it just matches the engine range that I've shown you before, all the specs and like the fuel consumption and speeds and everything. I say you see my 5-door 1.6 Z-Tech, the LX 15-inch wheels. That's what mine will be, that 150 man-hour top speed, 0 to 60 11.2, and 31 to 62 51.5. So yeah, just again, just weights and like specs that will come up with insurance groups, and yeah, just safety page. Yeah, and again, the wheels that were available, yeah, from the CL with the wheel covers, then just all the way through to the alloys, the ST170 17-inch alloy wheels, and some optional ones. Yeah, just like what it came with, like the features. Yeah, the interior versatility pack. Yeah, that's a very nice pack to have. Like I say, Andrew's estate on Usually Fixing on Tinkering channel, his estate's got the interior versatility pack, and in the times I've seen it, I can see like how handy and useful and unique feature it is. So it is a unique and different feature, that for sure. And again, just last pages is just usually the seat cloths and where the seat colorings and the like the designs that you get on each spec, and it shows there, and along with the colors on this page are available. This was 2002, so yeah, that's the Mk1 one anyway. So I say we just quickly ran through that. So as I say, I've covered it before, so we'll move on to the Mk2 here. Time of recording, I've only like had a quick like look through this. So yeah, I think that's just all about promoting like obviously the new design they had for the Mk2, the kinetic design that they had on the facelift Mk2 anyway. I say the Mk2's not my favourite generation, but the facelift one, the pre-facelift one's not my favourite, but the facelift one, in my opinion, does definitely look much better, and it is it is still a great car if it's not as good as the Mk1, but I wouldn't say no to one, put it that way. But Mk2 estate, I know that would be a really practical thing to have. And you see here, it's a similar pattern, even if it is a bit like different laid out, but it's got it writing at the top rather than bottom on the Mk1 brochure. Yeah, say the interior is not my favourite bit on the Mk2. It's just, it feels a bit more, but just the design's not as interesting as the Mk1. A bit more standard and Volkswagen like compared with the Mk1. I mean, don't get me wrong, its interior quality is probably better, no doubt about it. And as I said, it is probably still a decent interior, but just not my favourite interior, put it that way. So the exterior design on the facelift I do like. Yeah, say that's a nice blue colour. Say we'll look at the colours towards the end of this brochure. So yeah, it changes a bit here when it goes into like describing like features. It gives pages on particular features in this Mk2 brochure. So like the power button for start of the engine, so on certain models anyway, and just featuring like voice control and like the Sony CD radio. So it was getting a bit more modern technology starting to feature. Yeah, and that Ford Flexi Fuel thing that they featured on, I think it's from late 2000s Fords onwards. I know the Mark 7 Fiesta that I used to have had this feature, where it stops misfueling, like putting a diesel pump into a petrol car and vice versa, a petrol pump into a diesel. It's meant to recognise the nozzle back on the pump. So, and again, but it still promotes like the control blade rear suspension in that all focuses bar standard Mk4's feature. I say it's what made a Focus what it is. Mk1, 2, 3, and I think it's only the top spec at Mk4s that feature the control blade suspension. So yeah, it's mostly the same as the Mk1, the rear suspension, as far as I'm aware. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's more or less the same. Yeah, and again, it's promotes all the safety features here, like this massive list of what it has, like obviously the airbags and the crumple zones and the side impact bars, anti-lock brakes, ESP. Yeah, it's just like it's a lot of information, a lot to take in, but interesting all the same. Just adaptive lighting. Yeah, and here we are. We'll get onto the trim levels here. So yeah, so as you see, it's changed. So it's not the CL anymore. It's called the Style, the entry level spec. So it's still quite well equipped for an entry level spec car. So as you see here, it's still got steel wheels, electrically operated mirrors as standard, electric front windows, CD player, yeah, remote lock-in, air conditioning as standard as well. Obviously that's different from the Mk1 and CL entry level car. Yeah, so you got quite a well-equipped entry-level car on the Mark II, where the Mark II facelift at the very least. So it won't be something I complained about if I had a Focus style Mark II. So certainly has everything that I'd need, like CD player and an air conditioning. Yeah, next spec up is the Z-Tech. So say that's a nice colour, and see what you got on top of on the Z-Tech on top of the Style. So yeah, we got upgraded to alloy wheels, a rear spoiler, blackened headlights, so like them, sport style front seats, driver seat with a lumbar adjustment, front fog lamps. So yeah, got a few extra bits over the Style with the Z-Tech. Right, next one above is the Sport. Yes, there's an additional to Z-Tech. So sat nav, rear parking sensors, again like 16-inch wheels, Bluetooth, automatic headlights and wipers. Very nice. And Z-Tech S. Okay, so this kind of sits at the side of Sport. It's got 17-inch alloy wheels, aerodynamic front and rear bumpers and side skirts, aluminium lap pedals. Yeah, and the Ford start stop power button. So just sorry, I'm just looking at comparison. It's very obviously same shape, obviously center console and everything. Okay, yeah, here we are. And then next up is the titanium, and I think this effectively replaced gear as like getting towards the top spec of the range. Yeah, so this goes on top of Z-Tech, Sony CD player, cruise control, electric windows front and rear, automatic headlights as well, an alarm, and just lower chrome grille, leather gearbox. You got front floor mats as standard. So yeah, very nice. Yeah, and that just gives you like all the list of like comparing them all to each other, the specs, like what they all came with and what body styles are available and the engines. Yeah, so the smallest engine was at the 1.6. Obviously they ditched the 1.4 for the facelift Mark II. I'm pretty sure the pre-facelift Mark II did have a 1.4 available as a entry-level engine. And I know there was a pre-facelift that 4-door saloon, so by the time this brochure came out in the UK, it was May 2011, so this is like pretty much one of the very last Mark II brochures. Obviously Ford had ditched the saloon in the UK market, so yeah, that's one thing I didn't know about, so you learn something new every day. Right, yeah, and yeah, this is essentially the wheel design page. So obviously the steel wheels, like on the style. Yeah, sport alloy wheels. And says a lot of these you can specify as an accessory on models, or you did anyway when it was on sale at the time. Z-Tech alloy wheels. So you can tell it's all very like late 2000s, early 2010s kind of wheel designs. So well, for the time they were all like quite nice and modern, so in my opinion anyway. Yeah, and just the radios available. Yeah, and obviously featuring like voice control. Like there's when voice control were first coming in cars, like late 2000s. It's just like things that you can spec and everything, like the rear parking sensors and scuff plates. So you had quite a lot of choice in what you could put on. Alarm system, your Mark II individual floor mats, leather, interior accessories I should say. Yeah, I think this will be that the exterior accessories you can specify, that body styling kit and yeah, spoiler and exhaust pipe on the 3/5-door only. Very nice. Yeah, it's just some more accessories like the roof rails and bike racks and compartment like boots, nets and mats, dog nets, dog guards, anti-slip mats. Yes, that's just on about like just servicing and credit and environmentally friendly. Yeah, again, this is just similar to Mark 1. Obviously, it's the spec page, like what you get featured on each car. So it's like it's very complicated, like it's a lot to take in. So, yeah, and again, performance figures. I'll probably just pause it here for a moment if you want to have a read or look, or pause the video if you want to look. Move on. Yeah, and just weights again, and just the sizes and Right, yeah, anyway, I'll get to the colours and trim pages here. So this is like what the Focus Mark II Focus would have had at the end of its production life in 2011. So Colorado red, frozen white, ink blue. So that does still look good on the Mark II, the ink blue, which is colour of my Mk1. Moon dust silver, that's like the ubiquitous Ford silver colour, lasted all the way throughout Ford production from the Mk1 to Mk4. Panther black as well, another Mk1 colour that carried on. Sea grey and Vision. Okay, so that's called Vision, that blue. Yeah, so there's some Mk1 colours that were obviously carried on throughout Mk1, Mk2, and some ended up on Mk3, like the Moon Dust Silver, obvious one. So yep, and so there's only seems to be 4 seat options, like trim, 4 seat trim and options. As I say, they're all in that essentially black. So yeah, so I think this was obviously when Ford had cut down probably the options available. Like if an earlier brochure may have had more choice, but obviously this was a late one, so it's not much choice. So yeah, so that's the Mark II facelift, that last of the Mark II brochures, I would think. So yeah, so yeah, now we've looked at the next one is the Mark III. So now we looked at this one in its own video, so I won't go into too much into it. I'll just quickly show it through you again, quickly flick through it. That's why I feature all of them, and as I said, it promotes the control plate rear suspension again with the Mark III. You got EcoBoost engines. It's that Econetic and electric model. Yep. Yeah, and just obviously the options accessories again. See the Focus ST Mark III. It's difficult to read. I say I've shown it you in its own video previously. It was obviously they cut down on the 3-door for the Mark III in the UK market anyway, and it didn't sell a 4-door saloon at all. Even I know seen pictures on the internet of the saloon Mark III that was for markets overseas, Europe and America most likely, and again it just gives you the Ford range, and although it gives it you before it goes into it at the start, and whereas in the Mark II ones it gave it your after. So yep, style again, Z-Tech S, Titanium and Titanium X. Again, they've got rid of Sport and just added a Titanium X that to sit on as the top of the range. So yeah, as I say, I've shown it in a previous video, and so I'm just going through this quickly. But just say, if you watch this video, you probably see the differences, like or similarities between brochures that Ford did for each generation. So it generally gives you like all the interior trims and specs and all that in a similar way, and same with colours. Although now with the Mark III they've moved the colour page to the middle rather than at the end, unlike the Mark 1 and 2 brochures. It's now in the middle. So let's say I've shown it you before, but the standard colour that the Mark III had was race red. That was the colour that you got if you didn't want to pay extra for the other ones. So say they kept frozen white for the Mark III from the Mark II, got shadow black, so they haven't got panther black anymore, but magnetic, tectonic silver, I should say there's Moondust silver, the one that's always been there, lunar sky, iceberg blue, candy red, and deep impact blue. So they changed a lot of the colours for the Mark III, where obviously this is the Mark III facelift, so I haven't got a pre-facelift one. And then again they moved the seat cloth and designs that that they had to the middle rather than at the end again. And again it's more black and grey, whereas I know Mark 1's had the choice of black and essentially cream, even though I forgot what the name is off the top of my head. That will come back to me probably after this video. But you had more choice of colours of the Mark 1, and then it became darker colours of the Mark 2 and 3, which is probably what customers were buying and preferring. So it's just going for modern looks and darker colours. Yep, again, it's wheel trims. It doesn't show all of them like in previous magazines, but gives you, puts down what you got with each model. Yeah, I'll quickly run through this. It's again just the specs page at the end. Interior features, see that air conditioning and the front seats and all that, and just safety features, that steering and suspension and all that, as mentioned before. Safety, yep, and just the engines and performances. Insurance groups, yeah, and weights again. Yeah, and just like the size and the colours and trims available. As I said, it's race red with a standard colour, essentially. Yeah, and the sizings between the 5-door and estate. Yeah, yeah, and again, say we've done through that in a more depth video of its own. So let's move on here. This is the Mark 4 brochure. So this is the only one I could find. I'm just trying to find the date on this. I think it's inside here, August 2018. So see, this is from like essentially near start of production of the Mark 4. So this is my first time looking into Mark 4 brochure. So again, similar to Mark 3, they give a quote from like where show like signature of Henry Ford. See, from the front, the Mark 4 looks quite a good, decent little car, and I know some say on the hatch the rear looks like a BMW 1 Series, which I can see where they're coming from. Yeah, rear's that completely different to other generations of Focus, and yeah, it gives you the contents here. So yeah, it's quite a long brochure this, so try and get through it as quick as we can. It'll take me forever to go through this, and very nice shot. See, I know that is a very nice blue on the Mark IV. I do like that. Let's see, gives you the model line here, ST line X 5-door Desert Island Blue. I know that we'll look at the colours that as we go through here. Yeah, the estate version. I think obviously with this now being a more recent car, they're promoting the technology more now. So yeah, like the park assistant, adaptive cruise control, lane center assistant, the adaptive lighting system. Yep, and as you can see here from the interior, yep, this is obviously getting more, see, the more modern, obviously with the touch screen and everything. And although at the very least they did keep the heating controls on, switches and buttons at least. So that's one thing I'm probably glad that Ford at least did with the last Focus. That's on promoting the Focus Vignale, or Vignale, or however you said it, Vignale. So if I've said that wrong, obviously this was like the Ford like doing Vignale as the new top of the range version of the car. That to go on top of Titanium and Titanium X, etc. Although, again, that's one thing I didn't know with the Mark V. If you have an automatic, it's now switched to a dial for the automatic gearbox. See, and It's one thing I don't like. It's it looks like it's an electronic handbrake as well. I don't know, I prefer the traditional handbrake. So it looks like the Mk3 Focus was the last with the traditional handbrake, unless that was only on top of the range ones. We'll see. I say I don't excuse me, that's one thing I don't like. Let's go into more detail here. Well, the head-up display, promoting automatic transmission, rotary gear shift dial, as seen in the last picture. Just twist of a knob rather than selecting on a gear stick. Idea probably freeing up cabin room and storage. Suppose I can see where they're coming from with that. Yeah, wireless charging light pad for your phone. So yeah, you can see they're now integrating more modern technology. Rear view camera, yeah. Yeah, again, it's promoting the EcoBoost or EcoBoom engines, as some call them. It's just had the 1 litre 1.5 EcoBoost engines and a couple of diesels. In cylinder deactivation, yeah, as you can tell, it's getting into the more modern technology for the engines. Again, it's promoting adaptive cruise control and lane centering assist, things that more recent cars have. I know my Hyundai i20 has that, the lane centering assist and everything. And I know the cruise control on it is just it's not adaptive on my Hyundai. It's just the normal cruise control where it just maintains speed for you on a motorway. It's promoted the adaptive front lighting system. Traffic sign recognition. Again, I think we're getting the picture here with this, guys. A lot about all technology. Interesting that obviously with these pictures that they featured that older Ford, that's clearly a Mk3 Mondeo and a Mk2 Focus there, clearly. So obviously they've got that pre-planned up to feature other older Ford models in that shot. So yeah, as I say, on the back end you can see why some people say that looks like a more of a 1 Series on the back end, and it's like different from a previous generation of Fords, like the Mk1 and Mk2 especially. So it's not the worst looking thing, I'd say, but I'd say I can see why the rear end's not as, on the hatch anyway, it's not as good. And again, they've featured other cars are showing that parking space at Mk8 Fiesta there. Yeah, parking assist it's promoting there. Panoramic roof. I'd imagine that's probably quite a nice feature, to be honest. It makes it probably interior, I'd imagine, quite light and airy. So yeah, like a obviously sunroof kind of thing. So yeah, I think there's half leather seats on this example. ST Line X, a partial leather with the red stitching, so it does look quite nice, I'd say. And that's about the audio system. You can get that B&O or that audio system. And the Ford Sync system again, like for connecting your phone and sat nav and everything. That Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Yeah, again similar system what I've got in my Hyundai i20. So See, they were like, I think these are kind of like subscription services, and the like Wi-Fi hotspot being in the car itself, and some of it might not be operating anymore, but some of it might be. Don't. Practicality of the Mk4 state it's promoting, or trying to also say that incorporates style of a coupe. See, Mk4 is the one that I know least about, so it's about the safety features here. Pre-collision assistant, pedestrian and cyclist detection. Now we're getting on to the looking at what models are available. So again, it seems to go about it in a different way. Divides it up into some kind of different sections, like the entry-level versions, luxury versions, sporty versions, and then on the Mk4 they had a version called the Active. It was kind of like trying to make it into like a crossover kind of thing, which I'm kind of like not as keen. I don't like that really. Right, so they promote like the entry-level versions of the Style and the Z-Tech. Then you move on up to the luxury versions like the Titanium, Titanium X, and then Vignale. Again, I probably said that wrong. Sporty versions, the ST Line and ST Line X. As far as I'm aware, the Mk4, it did have an ST version. It just didn't have an RS version. I'm pretty sure there was an ST Mk4. If I'm wrong, correct me in the comments below. I say the Mk4 is the one I least know about, so yeah, and here we are. It goes on like the other brochures. It goes on about showing the trim, going through the trim levels, obviously the entry level style. Yep. So again, they've just ditched like steel wheels and they all have like alloy wheels now. So order headlamps. Exterior features. Again, the Ford Easy Fuel system, air conditioning standard. Yeah, I think also by this time CD players were like being ditched and got rid of out of most models. So apologies for the lighting. Yeah, so there's no CD player here. So I know that a lot would say that obviously it's an old-fashioned technology, CDs, but I know I still have a lot and I still buy them and I use them in my Mk1 Focus and CD player at home, and a lot of people like just use like subscriptions like Spotify and Amazon Music and all that. Okay, if that's more convenient for you, that's fair enough. Yeah, I'm probably just an old-fashioned person with the CDs and everything. I say in my Hyundai, I just use a Sony Walkman plugged in to the USB slot to play music, as that doesn't have a CD player in him at all. Let's say for an entry-level car, say the Style on the Mk4 is very well equipped. Yeah, then it still goes up to the Z-Tech. So Ford have always kept Z-Tech as a trim level for, but I don't know if it's either the Mk1 Focus or the Mk4 Fiesta that it first appeared on. So it's been going like near on 30 years as a trim. Z-Tech. I don't know if they've kept Z-Tech on for any of the rubbish crossovers that they offer now. So I'm not interested in them. Yes, I've got additional like cruise control, like leather trimmed gear knobs and the manual only. Obviously that one's got a manual, yep, and it's a electronic handbrake. So yeah, I'm not a fan of that. The electronic handbrake. I always preferred the old-fashioned like actual handbrake that you pull up. So just feels more secure that rather than relying on electronic sensors or nodes. Move up to titanium. Titanium Mk1, partial leather trim, power adjustable seat, 17-inch wheels. That's on top of titanium that we looked at just now. Yep, and then next up the new top of the range ones, Vignale. Again, I'm probably saying it wrong. 18-inch wheels, LED headlights on the outside. It's got the B&O audio system, rear view camera. Yes, that's meant to be like the luxury, the ultimate luxury version of a Mk4. Yep, and then these are essentially like the sporty models, ST lines. So you know that is a nice colour, and we'll move on to the colours that whenever they come up in this brochure. It's my first time looking through this, so ST line X, again, like that must be, I think this must be like 8 trim levels at least on the Mk4 Focus, so it's promoting like the features, optional features I should say. Here we are on the colours. So race red, so I think it looks like they've kept a lot of Mk3 colours going for the Mk4. Frozen white, shadow black, magnetic, in there they're like Mk3 colours. Chrome blue, I think that's a new one. Diffuse silver, another new one. Moon dust silver, yeah, that's a pretty much the continuous Mk1 colour throughout all models. Dark mulberry, ruby red, desert island blue. Yep, so I think there's only like 1 or 2 new colours of the Mk4. Rest are either carried over from Mk3, 2s and 1s. So yep, and here we are, the wheel trim, the alloy wheels that are available. See some basic alloys on the lower specs, and then you get more complex where on the more luxury, I don't know how else to describe it, it's more designed, I should say, on the more top of the range models. Again, the interior options, the design options, again, it's just all pretty much black, that they don't offer black, or I think grey at most. Yeah, it's just all dark colours. There's no like beige brighter colours that they had on the Mk1. You can tell how much has changed in the interior pattern designs over the years with it going through the brochures. And obviously this shows you like the colour and seat trim availability on which models. Interesting. Yeah, the different front headlight designs on each models. The halogen headlights are the standard ones. LED headlights like the standard on Vignale, and optional extras on other models, as you can see. Adaptive front lighting light, optional extra I should say. And just like the rear headlights, so yeah, and some of the options available like rear bumper protection, tow bar, optional charging case, mud flaps and all that, boot liner, rubber floor mats. Yeah, it's on about the engines now, the EcoBoost and EcoBlue diesels. See, I'm aware this video's gone on quite a long and 8-speed automatic. Must be changing gears all the time with a gearbox with that many gears. And just the touch screen with the Mk4 system. And obviously the different size screens that you've got on different models. So 4.2 inch on Style, 6.5 inch on Z-Tech and ST Line, then the 18-inch one on ST Line X, Titanium X and Vignale, and the optional extras on the other models, I should say. Yeah, and yeah, the sizings here, like the 5-door again, and the Estate. That's all we've got in the UK. Yeah, and it just gives you the performance and emissions and fuel economies of each model. By the time you get to this stage, it's very difficult to compare it with earlier Focuses, because it's like engines and all specs and all that are so different. It's, you can see how much it's changed since the Mark 1 and 2. Yeah, it's just there's a lot to go through here. I know you probably can't see it, but it's a lot of information. And just like the wheels, what wheels are available again. Yeah, so they've moved all showing you what options are available on which models towards the back of the brochure in the Mk4 one. Yeah, I'll probably have to get through this quite quick with how long this video is going on for. Insurance groups here. And that's obviously the luggage space you've got in each one. And just gives you the sizing list form. Yeah, but that's just obviously finance and ownership and like warranty and everything. So yep, I know I had to rush through the end of that one, but obviously there's a lot. That's probably the longest brochure that there is on the Mk4. So yeah. Right, so I hope you have enjoyed this like long video. I know it went on longer than I were planning, so but say there was a lot of information, especially in the Mk4 one, and yeah, just say that the Mk4 Focus isn't one that I know much about, and to be honest, as I say, the Mark 1 Focus I know most on, and I know a bit more on the Mark 3.5 as my parents have owned one, as I've said in other videos, and Mark 2 I know some information about, just I've never driven or owned one, so Mark 2 I'm a bit more limited on, but the Mark 4, as I said, is the one I know least about. So yeah, that was the first time I've looked through the Mark 4 one, and you know, some interesting bits in it. And yeah, I don't like the fact that you've got the electronic handbrake rather than the traditional one in the Mark 4. So I don't think I'll own a Mark 4. But say it's just interesting reading about it and all models, and just seeing how the brochure's changed for the Focus over the years, like just how it's gone from the Mark 1 through the Mark 2, 3 and into the Mark 4. I say it's gone through different sizes. It started off at A4 size with the Mark 1 and 2, and then it's cut down to like smaller in terms of length, but obviously thicker in terms of like how many pages and width, if that makes sense. I know hopefully it makes sense, but say you've seen it and how the different sizes they are. So Yep, if you've liked the video, please give it a like, and if I've got anything wrong, or if you've got anything to add, or I've missed anything, or if you want to give me like any feedback on how my videos are going, or how you've enjoyed this video, or have anything to add, please leave a comment. And if you've enjoyed my video so far, then please subscribe to my channel if you want to, and give my videos a like and everything. It does help the channel grow, and just I'm enjoying making these videos, and hopefully you're enjoying watch them. If you don't, then that's fine, and you don't need to watch any of my videos again. But if you are, it's appreciated when you like and comment, and when you like my videos, comment and subscribe to my channel when you do. So yep, I will leave that there. You take care now. Everyone stay safe and be kind to each other. Bye.